Hi everyone, my name is Diana. I just wanted to welcome those who've joined us early. We still have a few more minutes before we get started, but we'll start right at half of the hour. So chat with you soon and hang tight. Hi everyone, this is Diana. I'm a career coach here at Springboard. Thanks so much for joining us for our office hour today. Today we're going to talk about networking, which is going to be a critical component of your job search here. Just before getting started, I wanted to give you some background information. We do these office hours normally every month. Every month we go through a different topic. So feel free to join us, if there's a specific topic you're interested in hearing about. How this would work is we'll spend the first 30 minutes to go through the topic of networking, networking to get work. And then the other 30 minutes of the hour we'll spend on some Q&A. There is a Q&A option if you hover to the bottom of your screen through Zoom. Click on the Q&A, avoid using the chat box to ask questions, and I will take the questions as they come. And answer to my best of my ability. But always know that, besides office hours, you can always book a call with a career coach at any time. If you haven't done so yet, through your course here, I highly recommend that you schedule a call with your coach. You should be speaking to your coach on a monthly basis. And the sooner you start, the easier it's going to be for you in your job search. Um, this slide deck will be made available to you. Today's Friday, so it'll be made available to you by next week. This is also recorded. So if for some reason you got to hop off, or you've got a friend who wanted to join today, but they couldn't, we'll also send out a link to you to let you know, that they can watch it on YouTube. All right, so let's talk about networking. Networking, it can be fun, but for a good majority of the students that I work with, I know that it's kind of scary too, because you're trying to get connected with essentially strangers, right? But what I can say is, the reason why networking is important is because 70 to 80% of professionals usually find a job through networking. I can attest that, I've done recruiting for many, many years. A lot of the times, as a recruiter, I prefer interviewing people that are referral versus people that, come through and apply through the applicant tracking system on the career website. The network you build will definitely outlast your job search and can help you in the future as well. So think of networking as really a long-term strategy, right? So we're not trying to network with people to quickly get a job out of it. You want to grow your network consistently, and also gradually. You might not know, who you'll encounter again in the future, because of someone you met, years and years ago. I can attest, for me, I've been in the workforce for over 15 years. There are some people that I personally met when I was still interning in school or my first job out of college. I still am very well connected with them, and I still reach out to them for advice, for additional information, maybe even refer me to other opportunities. Another great thing about networking is it is definitely great practice for interviewing, especially your about me pitch. So in every single interview that you encounter, whether it's with the HR or recruiter or hiring manager, they will always ask you, tell me about yourself, walk me through your professional experience. And what great way for you to practice that, then do it in informal conversations in a networking capacity, perhaps over the phone or in person at a meetup. The last piece about why networking is important is it really helps you build your confidence in your ability to speak and make connections in the industry. So networking is all about practice. The more practice you add to it, the more effort and energy, it gets easier with time. Because once you've gotten a good practice with it, you probably answer the same questions, over and over several times. So it definitely is very helpful for you as you prepare for your job search. Okay. So the second question I get a lot from students is, how do I network effectively? So you got to think about, your ROI, right? Networking is definitely very time consuming. So you don't want to be just like really networking with people, that may not be aligned with your goals, whether it's, career goals or professional goals or even personal goals. So who should you be networking to really get that traction there? So starting off, personal connections is great. Connecting with friends and family, former colleagues, or even alumni where you went to school, or even, Springboard alumni as well. The Springboard curriculum is only about 6 months long. And we're always getting tons and tons of students. So, opportunity for you to connect with people that were just in your shoes, maybe even not too long ago. So that's one avenue for networking. Another avenue for networking is in person. So that is your meetups. And if you guys don't have a meetup account or an Eventbrite account, I highly, highly recommend that you create one and start looking for opportunities in your local cities. I bet you'll find some data science related opportunities when you do a quick search. There's also conferences that you can consider. So there are many, many different types of conferences, across the U.S., globally even. And some of them do charge money to go, but a lot of times the conferences might be worth it just because there's a career component to it. I can tell you one of the conferences that I attended in the past is the computer vision pattern recognition, which is lots and lots of deep learning, machine learning, data science folks that attend. Lots of students also doing their presentations too. So I would encourage you to, if you have the financial ability to afford to go to conference, do your research and see if there's a good return in investment for you. If financially it's not possible, you could also maybe reach out to the organizers and see if you can volunteer for the event, and that is an opportunity for you to maybe attend the conference admission free. Lastly, there's also career events, especially for those students who maybe graduated not too long ago. Your university might still, put on career events. Some of them are more alumni specific. So feel free to leverage your university career center as well. They often do invite alumni to their career fairs in the fall and the summertime. The springtime. And then lastly, another great avenue is online. So LinkedIn, of course, is the number one resource to get connected to people professionally. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you definitely need to create one. If you are unsure about your profile, and if you have questions or need advice on how to enhance it, feel free to book a call with a career coach, and a career coach can guide you through step by step how to make it better. There's also opportunity. I personally am not too familiar with this, but some of my students have led me to Shaper, which is almost like it's a platform that connects you to professionals based on a keyword search. So definitely an opportunity for you to check it out as additional resource. Now, with all these different types of individuals you can connect with, whether personal or professional, through online or in person, let's talk about how to strategically target people so that you can get the best return on your time. So, generally speaking, when you are job searching, the best way to get connected to jobs is probably reaching out to experienced professionals that have been in their title for maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years. So let's say you're a data scientist or a data analyst, or you're aspiring to be a data analyst or a data scientist. One of the great things that you can do is search on LinkedIn and find other data scientists or data analysts that have been in their position for 2 to 3 years, more mid-level, and see if you can connect with them. What I would try to avoid is connecting with, senior managers, associate directors, VPs, or even, the CEO of an organization. Many times these individuals, they don't even check their LinkedIn really, and they don't really have a whole lot of time to give back with the networking. Your best bet is targeting people that were in the same shoes as you, maybe 2 to 3 years ago, perhaps even a Springboard alumni who can definitely relate to your current situation. Another type of avenue to pursue is technical recruiters. So, and I'm speaking about technical recruiters that work for a company, not so much an agency. So within a company that hires a lot of technical people, data scientists, software engineers, AI engineers, data analysts, they will definitely have a group of technical recruiters, and their job is to find these people. You can definitely reach out to these recruiters, but the messaging is going to be a little bit different. Whereas the messaging for experienced professionals is going to be more of like, hey, like I would love to get connected with you and learn about what you're doing. If you can give me advice on how to, get to where you are, and perhaps even asking them for a referral to a job. With technical recruiters, the message is much more going to be about, hey, I saw a job on your website, and I would like to put my name, in the hat and be considered for the opportunity. Please see my resume. Let me know if you would like to chat. I'm happy to spend some time if you're available. So the message with the tech recruiters is more so like, hey, I've applied. Here's, I see that you're looking for a data analyst, data scientist. Here's my resume. Let's chat. Recruiters don't do referrals. They don't, it's their job to recruit. So don't ask them for a referral. Usually there's no incentive for them to do a referral. They are trying to fill, the positions that they have. All right. The other piece about how to network effectively is, I know I'm throwing a lot of information out there and, telling you to talk to your friends and family, go to meetups, talk to experienced professionals. And it seems really scattered. So really the best way to maximize your networking is to set attainable goals. Take this, this thing called networking that can very be, messy and sloppy, and kind of turn it into incremental goals that you can achieve for yourself and check off the list. So my recommendation is starting off, if you're brand new to the Springboard curriculum, start with doing 10 LinkedIn connections per week. So find 10 people that are in a job title that you aspire to be in, maybe soon after you graduate from Springboard, and send them a connection request. When you go to a meetup, try to make 2 new contacts with any in-person event that you are going to. And, if you are nervous about talking to someone, if you are, really hesitant, there's definitely ways to go about it. And what I'm looking for is incremental success. So I don't expect you to go to meetup and off the bat be the life of the room and talk to every single person. What I do expect you to do is to make incremental steps into this. So if, meetups are really scary, maybe just start by showing up. Just going and being present and listening. Maybe next time you go to the meetup, talk to 1 or 2 people. Maybe the next time you go, talk to maybe 5 people. And the more practice you get in, the better you'll get at it. I promise you. Networking is never easy off the bat. It does take a lot of commitment and practice, but you will get there. Another goal I would like to see students make to really be successful is aim for 2 to 3 informational calls a month. So these informational interviews, if you haven't gotten to that part of the curriculum yet, is really, when you ask someone, hey, can we chat on the phone for 15, 20 minutes? These conversations are usually you asking the questions, right? So you asking them, hey, how did you get started in this company? How do you like working at this company? Do you have any advice to give me, someone who's trying to pivot into data analytics for the first time? So come with a curious mind, come with questions, come with an attitude of you want to learn and grow, and garner as much information. Treat it as if you are someone seeking a mentor in the industry. All right, networking part 3. How do you pick the right meetup or event to attend? So first of all, some of us work full-time. Some of us have a little bit more flexibility. So find a meetup that will work for you, a day and a time. Some of us may not live in big metropolis cities, so it will take you some time to kind of drive there. So, you got to take into consideration the timing of the event. Also be very cognizant of what the topic is of the meetup. So try to find meetups that talk about topics that are a little bit more advanced more advanced than you're comfortable with. Maybe have a guest speaker or even a panel planned. The reason for this is I'm trying to get you into a room with professionals, right? So avoid meetups that are more like intro to this, learn how to do this, right? So those are really more salesy types of meetups, and I would hate for you to go to a meetup just to hear a sales pitch from a company or a product that they're offering. So aim for meetups that have a little bit more advanced, topic. Aim for meetups where maybe the panel, the guest speaker is someone who could potentially have a job for you, and that will definitely go a long way. In terms of number of attendees, so there's really not like a right or wrong number of attendees that's like a perfect meetup for you. Some of them you'll find are 20 people. Some of them are, more than 100. I would say do your research. A group that usually meets consistently, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, that tends to be a good sign that's a good place for you to go. And the nice thing is, by you showing up on a consistent basis, it tells the organizers that you care and you're committed. And whoever they bring into a meetup, they might know to pick you out of the group and be like, hey, so and so has been with us for the last 6 months. I would like to introduce you to this data science manager at this tech startup. So things to think about. Again, if the meetup is too far for you, maybe try to find some conferences where you can, plan ahead of time to travel there. Just take a look at what conferences are out there. The drawback to that is that there might be a fee for you to attend a conference, or you may have to switch up your strategy where you do more virtual connecting and informational interviews over the phone versus going to the meetups. That is something that you can talk to your career coach about if you want to have a more customized plan. Other resources to consider when you're, looking to attend an event or a meetup. So meetup.com, obviously is the biggest one. So definitely create an account there if you don't have that done so far. Eventbrite is also a really great one. Before I hopped on this call, I did a quick search on Eventbrite to look at data science activities in my neck of the wood. Actually, I live in San Diego. I was really, really surprised that there were quite a few, being as we're so close to LA. A lot of times, LA get more love than than we do here in San Diego. For like the larger cities, you may be able to find something like a built-in type of platform. So I'm originally from New York. There's a big built-in New York tech group that you can take a look at. There's also something called American Inno. So take a look and do a quick Google search if they're in your city. Then the last thing I wanted to chat with you about is tech Slack channels. So this is quite innovative and novel to me, but I'm finding a lot of success by pointing my students there. So a lot of major metropolises have their own tech Slack channel, whether it's by city usually, but there's also tech Slack channels that are just catered to data science, for instance, or data analytics. If you just do a quick Google search with tech Slack channel and then insert your city there, you should be able to find a list, and oftentimes you can see how many people are part of that group. The nice thing about Slack channels is that there's almost always a job channel where people are posting jobs, and it's a great opportunity for you to direct message a hiring manager, especially if they're the ones that post on the tech Slack channel. All right. Okay, networking part 4. So this is generally a question I hear a lot from my students. Why isn't anyone responding to my LinkedIn messages? And that definitely happens more often than you think. So there's a few things that make a LinkedIn message really captivating and enhances your response rate. So the first thing to consider is looking at your message, is it coming off too aggressive or is it too long? I'll start off with the long one. So, people are busy, right? So hiring managers, professionals, recruiters, they tend to be pretty busy in their day to day and don't have a lot of time to sit and read long messages. So try to craft a message that is short and sweet, gets to the point, but give it enough context so it doesn't sound like there's no information for you to share. The aggressive pieces, so I do see some students like their first message is like, here's my life story, here's 3 paragraphs of my life story, and then at the end it says, hey, can you refer me to this job I see posted. So aggressive in the sense that you're already asking for something off the bat, and really the a strategy with networking, your first inclination and your first attitude towards networking is really shouldn't be what's in it for you, but really what can you learn in the process? What can garner in terms of information from this industry professional that you're speaking to? Maybe this person has so much knowledge that they can even help guide you with your capstone projects and give you advice there. So your first response and your first attitude in networking is really to be a sponge and learn as much information as possible. Be curious, come with questions. Which leads to my second bullet point. We discussed this. Don't ask for a referral off the bat. You really want to try to build a connection and rapport with that person first, and help them feel like comfortable talking to you. My third bullet point here is avoid asking technical recruiters for referral. I did touch upon this in an earlier slide. So technical recruiters, simply they can't give you a referral. Their job is to find people. Their mentality is, I need to fill these jobs now, and if you don't fit that mold, they're not going to they're not able to kind of give you the time to do an informational interview. So really, when you reach out to them, the message should really be more of like, hey, I saw a job on your website. I'm really interested. Here's my resume. I've also submitted my application. Let me know if you're available to chat. If you're not the right recruiter for this role, like feel free to send me in the right direction. I'm happy to connect with whoever I need to connect with. The fourth bullet point I have here is email is usually better than LinkedIn messaging. As you can attest, you personally probably spend more time in your email inbox than you do on LinkedIn. So if you are able to find out the person's email address, try to reach out to them via email first. And there's 2 ways you can go about finding their email. If you are connected with them on LinkedIn, what you can do is there's actually a link that's called contact information near the very top right underneath their picture. If you click on contact information, oftentimes they'll have their email address listed there. Now, if their email is not listed there, what you can also do is there's a resource called hunter.io. If you go to that website and you type in the company's name, it usually is able to serve you the template for how a company does their email addresses. So some companies just have like first name at company.com. Some companies have first name dot last name at company.com. Some companies have the initial of your first name and then your last name at company.com. So Hunter is a good resource. It's a little bit of a web scraping tool. So it can, kind of serve you that template for that email. Another piece I wanted to chat with you about is If you decide to send an email to a contact that you want to speak to, wait 2 weeks before you follow up with them. Don't, be pestering them every other day because then it comes off as aggressive, right? And we don't want them to feel, they're bombarded. If after 2 weeks and you followed up and there's still no response, I would just leave that connection there. Don't pursue it any further. You do want to, come off friendly and, amicable. So any more than just two emails, I would say is sufficient. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll spend some time here, is for the most part, Career Services they've created some LinkedIn templates for you. So if you don't feel like writing your own, or if you feel like you need some inspiration on how to craft a good template, I'll just go to the link here to show you. Okay. All right, so what I have here is a Google document, and we will send this out to you next week so you have access to it. But these are built-in templates that you can simply copy and paste, or you can use as inspiration to, write your own. So this is the Making LinkedIn Connections and Follow-Up. When you find someone on LinkedIn you want to connect with, you can send them this message: hi, I found your experience really interesting. It would be great to connect. That first message has very limited characters, so you really can't write more than just a one-line sentence. Here you have, once they've connected with you, this is a message to request an informational interview. So you have would you have any time to speak for 15-20 minutes over the next couple of weeks? Other types of messages that I have here, so message to send to a person that a friend, colleague has recommended you reach out. I'll let you guys, take a look here. I won't read through everything. We also have a template here for if you don't feel comfortable asking the person for a referral on the spot. You can also email them, follow up with a message, thank them for the conversation, and then ask them if they're willing to refer you for the job. One point that I do want to make about referrals is, in every single company that I've ever worked at, every company has a referral bonus program. So employees are incentivized with a monetary reward to refer people that get hired. It's a very, very common practice. So, if you strike a great conversation with a professional at a company, there is a little bit of an incentive for them to refer you. So just keep that in mind. All right, so in the interest of time, because we are 30 minutes in, I do want to spend 30 minutes with the Q&A. I won't go through the rest of this templates. This will be available to you if you want to take a look at it on your own. But I will stop my share and I will take some questions. And please enter your questions in the Q&A option. Don't send it through the chat. Okay. Okay, so the first question that I have here is, how do I sell my value through networking? How can the people around me also become my advocates for opportunities? So the key thing is, networking is about really selling yourself. So you should be your biggest cheerleader in terms of, selling yourself and getting your name out there and showcasing that you have the skills and chops to take on the data scientist position or data analyst position. Really, making good connections through networking is about building that rapport and finding common ground so that they can remember you. So if you go with an attitude of curiosity and wanting to learn, and understanding how that person got to where they are. That's a really good start, and that really can really accelerate your brand and help other people promote you as well. Lots of people love to talk about themselves, so as many questions as you can ask them about how they got to where they are tends to give you a positive interaction where they can think positively of you. Okay, so right. The next question here is, how imperative is it to register for LinkedIn Premium? Could I utilize LinkedIn without the upgrade? So the short answer is yes, you can use LinkedIn. You can, Google search people on LinkedIn and find their profile pretty easily if you know who you want to target. LinkedIn Premium does have a lot of great tools that and access to that you might find beneficial. My LinkedIn Premium actually expired a couple of days ago, and I'm kind of regretting it because when I do searches now, because I do so many of them, I can only see a few people when I do searches. Whereas with LinkedIn Premium, I see if the results are there's 2,000 people with data analyst titles, I can see everyone. So I would say if you have the ability to do it, definitely make an investment with LinkedIn Premium. Otherwise, it might be a little bit harder for you to find these people. You might have to get their name and then do a quick Google search on their name, the company, and then add LinkedIn in the Google string as well. Okay. The next question I have here is, how do I sell my value through networking? I think I answered this one already. All right. So this next question I have is, can I propose a time for informational interviews in my initial email, like evenings? Sometimes they change the time and I want to make sure it's in my work off hours. So that's a really great question because I've actually had a student recently who basically said, I'm free at any time that you are free for the informational interview, and that person didn't respond. So what you want to do is in your informational interview, you definitely, when you are scheduling your informational interview, you definitely want to set a specific time and day. But of course, be flexible, right? You want to say, I would love to chat with you. I'm generally free after 4 p.m., but I'm willing to work around your schedule. Just let me know what it looks like. A piece about scheduling informational interviews during the weekends or evenings, or even early mornings, non-work times, it's going to be a little bit of an inconvenience for that person. So if you can schedule these informational interviews over lunchtime, that will probably the most fruitful for both you yourself and also for the person that you're trying to chat with. So this question here says, when you're dealing with friends and family, how do you do things like get referrals without seeming like you only care about getting a job? So that's a great question. Networking, again, it's a long game, right? It's not an instant gratification type of situation. You want to have a first informational interview with them, and really that informational interview, you really don't want to come off as you're trying to get them to do something for you. It really should be a very a learning opportunity for you to get to know them. Also, another reason why we recommend doing networking early, even as soon as your first month in the course, is so that you're not having to scramble right after you graduate to kind of get people to give you that instant return on investment. If you play the long game, usually it's a little bit more effective. So I would say the first thing is your first informational interview shouldn't be about you trying to get them to do something. It should be about you trying to learn from them and having a curious mind. Now, if you know that they have a job available at that company and you really think that you'll be a good fit, you can follow up with an email. There is an email in that template where it asks that person for a referral, but it's very gentle. It's not very, it's not aggressive. It comes from a place of gentleness that you can potentially use. This question is, does it look bad if I apply for multiple roles within the same company? So I would say if you are applying to 10 jobs at a specific company, yes, it's definitely going to be frowned upon. So one thing that hiring managers and recruiters want to know is that you have consistency. You have a strategy. You have a very straightforward idea of what you want to get into. By you submitting to applications for like 10 different jobs at the company, it tells that hiring manager and the recruiter that you don't have a plan. You just want to get in, right? You don't even know where you want to go. I would say don't apply to more than 3 jobs at a company. Now, if it's a much larger company, like let's say they have, over 1,000 people, they've gone public or they're a very mature organization, you can definitely apply to more opportunities than that. But try to avoid applying to more than 3 jobs for like a mid-sized company. Usually that would put you in a bad spotlight if you do apply to a lot of jobs. Okay. So this question is, when I talk to someone and realize they are a founder or in a very high position in a company, but not HR, what's the best way to share that I'm looking for a position? So the message to someone like that, like a seasoned executive, a founder, and HR is going to be very similar. Actually, it's actually really great that you get connected with the hiring manager directly because usually they have all the tech details. They know exactly what they're looking for. But with speaking with anyone that who's in a position to give you a job, it's always about, hey, I've noticed there's an opportunity at your company. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? I would love to hear what the day-to-day looks like. What's the ideal candidate profile for that type of job? Are you looking to hire soon? Are you looking to hire in the next couple of months? So really the messaging is pretty much going to be the same. Usually a seasoned executive, a founder, and the HR person are on the same page when it comes to hiring. This question is the follow-up email for informational interview necessary? How important is it? Are they usually responding after follow-ups if they don't after first email? I would always say it's very, very important for you to always be sending thank you emails. So just like you have to send a thank you email after every interview that you have, definitely take some time and write a thank you email to people that give you the time and day for an informational interview, especially if that informational interview went really, really well. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. It doesn't have to be like multi-paragraphs. Like 3 sentences would definitely be sufficient. All right. This question is, a face-to-face informational interview is harder to arrange than a phone call. Is it worth the extra effort? Why or why not? So it really depends on your situation. So face-to-face is always better, because there's so much so much information that's exchanged when you are meeting person face-to-face. So think about body language, right? So body language carries a lot more communication than verbal. Most people remember how you present yourself more so than what you were actually saying. So if you can get an informational interview face to face, like definitely go for it. If there is a little bit more return on investment in that, but also it's not like a make it or break it. As long as you get a phone call with that person, that would be a win in my book. A side note about face-to-face informational interviews is in your first outreach to the person that you want to have an informational interview with, don't propose a coffee or a lunch date. Start off with just a phone call because asking for coffee and lunch as the first request seems a little bit too much and asking for too much, especially since in this busy day and age, people might not even take a lunch. They just work at their desk. So just be mindful of that. Your first informational interview with someone really should be a phone call, a 15-20 minute phone call that can be easily scheduled. And if you find a conversation leading to more, or this person wants to have another conversation with you, and they offer to do a coffee date or a lunch date, definitely go for it. So this next question is, what are recruiters and hiring managers' expectations in regards to UX design portfolio? That is a great question. I think it really depends, based on like case-to-case situations. This is a great opportunity for you to book a call with a career coach, specifically a UX career coach that can give you some guidance on the portfolio. So just to let you guys know, I primarily coach for data science students and AI and data analytics. But in my past experience, I have recruited for UI UX designers, and I can tell you, your portfolio is your golden ticket. So make sure your portfolio is in good shape. I know that my hiring managers who did design, he wanted to look at the portfolio first before he even went ahead and looked at the resume. So make sure your portfolio is up to date. Make sure it's easy to navigate, and it tells a good story. But if you want more personal expertise or advice, definitely book a call with a coach who can give you that one-on-one time. Okay. All right, what is the percentage of response rate for email messages? I have been told to send friends, family emails isn't a little too pushy. So yes, networking, you got to do it the right way. You don't want to come off too pushy. So generally speaking, if you, LinkedIn, for example, if you reach out to about 20 people, so asking them to connect with you, about 20 people, I would say like about half of them, maybe a little bit more than half if you're lucky, will accept your invitation. Right. Of course, there's other factors as well, like if they're a Springboard alumni that you're connecting with, or someone that went to university, the chances will be higher. But generally speaking, if it's a cold message, about half of them will get back to you and accept. Now, of the let's say 10 people that accept your request, if you message all of them and ask them for an informational interview, I would say maybe like one or two people will agree to the informational interview. So I know that this may seem like dismal statistics, but what I can tell you that if you talk to a salesperson, they'll be so happy to have these kind of ratios and these kind of stats. So know that that's actually pretty good. Getting half the people to connect with you and getting one to two informational interviews out of the 10 people that you reach out to. All right. This next question is, there are jobs that ask for certain years of experience. Should you apply for jobs that say you need, this certain number of experience? So I would say, like, if you are more entry level, so you've never had any sort of data analytics or data science position, or for my UX students out there, no UX work experience. If you are staring at a job description that requires like 5 to 7 years of work experience, you should probably stay away from those because they're probably not looking for entry level. Entry level usually means like, 0 to 3 years of experience. If it does say you require 3 years of experience, it is a little bit of a stretch, but I would submit your application anyway. As long as you have 50% of the job description requirements, I say go for it. You don't have anything to lose, right? Also, another thing is having written tons and tons of job descriptions in my life, many hiring managers are very aspirational, and sometimes what's written on the job description is often a unicorn that doesn't exist. So know that if you don't meet every single requirement, you can still apply if it's if you have 50% of the requirements. But with the years of experience, like if you're entry level, avoid the 5 to 7 years. And when I say entry level, I mean brand new to data science, your career shifter to data science or the UX track. Okay. All right, so the question here, there's actually two questions. How do I rekindle connections that are a decade old? And I'll start with that one. So I have plenty of connections that are over 10 years old. I started my career more than 10 years ago. Usually with these individuals, the ones that I stay in touch with, we can go years and years without talking and be able to kind of pick up where we left off as soon as we get connected. Usually with the messaging for people that, have been a while, they probably want to know what's been happening the last 10 years, like where have you gone, So I would message them in a way like, telling them like, I used to do this, like, we used to work at this company together for a number of years. It was so great to, work with you at that time, but I've recently transitioned. I'm going into data science or UX, and I'm looking to kind of get into the field. And I know that you're in data science or you're in UX. I would love to see we can just get connected. So really telling the narrative and giving them that information will probably be beneficial. The second question I have here is, how do I maintain contact with an individual in tech or HR who has rejected me in an interview? So that's a great question because, sometimes it's like, oh man, I got rejected. Like, I don't know if they ever want to talk to me again. So you gotta have to gauge it. Usually in an interview process, they reject you for two reasons. One, like, you don't fit the culture at all. So that's like a soft skills thing, right? Like what maybe, you're not a good team player, or, you have like not good with communications, or it could also be like lack of well, that's one thing. The first thing is like more soft skills, so you're not a culture fit. The second thing they reject you for is that you don't have enough technical experience or work experience, right? So let's say in those two categories you interviewed, you are really, really great at the soft skills and you're a great culture fit, but you really don't have the technical experience or the work experience. Usually a good recruiter will tell you that. A good recruiter will tell you, like, we love you, like, we think that you're a great fit for the organization, but you really don't have enough years of experience. Why don't you come back in 6 months and reapply? So a good recruiter will let you know of that case. And that way, that makes it so much easier for you to connect with them, right? Just follow up with them in 6 months. If you are rejected because you're not a good cultural fit, they probably won't give you, a lot of feedback because no one wants to be told that they're not a good collaborator, team player, right? So you gotta have to gauge it. If you feel like you got rejected because of that basis, it may not be a good idea for you to connect with the hiring manager or HR again, because if you're not a cultural fit now, in their minds, they don't think you're a cultural fit in the future. So just keep that in mind. But personally, I've had this one hire when I was a recruiter. He was a great cultural fit. We wanted him to work for us, but he interviewed for 4 different jobs. Like, I placed him in 4 different interviews because I liked him so much. He got rejected for the first 3, but the 4th one, we finally got a fit for him. So a good recruiter will hold on to you and want to connect with you if it really truly is a lack of technical skills. Okay. All right. Okay, this question is, when I look for connections on LinkedIn, should I start from smaller companies? So it depends. If you haven't finished your first capstone project, let's just use that as kind of like a timeline point in time. If you are just starting off your job search, I would recommend that you connect with any and everyone that you think is interesting to chat with in the space that you are in. So whether UX, data analytics, or data science, and the goal of those networking sessions is to learn and be curious and find out more about that industry. It doesn't matter so much if it's a smaller company or a larger company or mid-sized company. You want to connect with people that are in the job titles that you aspire to be in. They've been in that role for maybe like 2 to 3 years. And so that's the goal. Now, once you start applying to jobs and submitting applications, your networking is going to change a little bit. You're really going to want to network with people at companies that have that job posted so that you can ultimately get a referral for that job specifically. So depending on if that's a smaller company or mid-sized company or large-sized company, it's really depend on like what you think is appropriate for you. Do you want to work for a larger company? Do you want to work for a smaller company, etc.? Okay. What should be the approach while reaching out to the recruiter for an open position if we need visa sponsorship to be able to work? Should we let them know in the first message or wait till they reply to our first message after looking at their resume? So that's a very, very good question because we do have a lot of international students. And I've actually worked with international students myself when I hired for my last company. So the first thing with work visas, be strategic about the search that you do. Try to find companies that have lots and lots of international employees in the existing countries, so probably the US, right? If they have a lot of international employees at the company, that probably means they're open to the visa sponsorship, and then submitting an application, you'll probably get considered somewhat, as opposed to a company that doesn't do any visa sponsorship. So that's the first point. The second thing to note about visa sponsorship is they're always going to ask you, do you now or in the future require visa sponsorship? You do have to answer that honestly. But if your visa doesn't expire for like another 3 years, state that, let them know, like, you have the work authorization for the next 3 years, so that they don't kind of just brush you off and put you in the reject pile immediately. All right, I'm going to try to go through these questions a little faster since we have about like 5 minutes or so. Okay, this question is, when making a career switch from a non-technical background, what are some ways to sell yourself without experience in any technical field? Great question. So in the absence of any technical background, you're going to use your capstone projects as work experience. So if you are brand new to Springboard and thinking about your capstone projects, make sure you are factoring in, your job search. Like, pick a capstone project that's going to get you a job, right? So if you want to go into insurance, if you want to go into economics, maybe you should do a capstone project on, macroeconomics, maybe a model that can, I don't know, predict recessions or maybe housing prices, right? So be very cognizant of the capstone projects you pick, because if you don't have any technical experience, your capstone project is basically going to be your work experience. When is the best time to start working with a coach on my LinkedIn profile? I'm in my first month. I would say immediately. So if you are in your first month, definitely schedule your first call. Your first call will definitely be about your LinkedIn profile, because that's going to set you up to network. Is applying to internships frowned upon if you have work experience but not in the field you're looking to transition into? That's a great question. So usually internships are reserved for people that are still in school. So when I say school, I mean like in bachelor's program, master's program, PhD program. I don't think you'll find a whole lot of traction applying to jobs, specifically internships, if you have worked in the workforce and you've been out of school for a while. Now, smaller companies might make that exception. So like companies that are like, 50 people or less, that might be a good option, but I don't think that's a very fruitful option. In my opinion, I think you should just go straight and apply for the entry level jobs, between 0 to 3 years of experience. All right, this question is regarding the LinkedIn profile update. Should we update it according to the opportunity we want to pursue or current roles? How do you balance if there are two different roles? So your LinkedIn profile needs to tell a consistent story that you are interested in going into UX or data analytics or data science. Now, a lot of times people don't have direct work experience in that field, but maybe they've like touched upon design or they've touched upon data. Maybe it was just only using Excel or something. So your LinkedIn profile should highlight those elements. If you want a data analyst job, but you used to, work at I don't know, like a financial analyst or something, you want to call out parallels or transferable skills that help the reader of your profile realize, oh yeah, like she or he does have the data experience or the design experience, or he can learn how to do this. So I would write your LinkedIn profile not like, at face value. You do want to paint a picture of where you want to go. Also, the summary of your LinkedIn is a great place for you to tell your narrative. The summary allows you to, write a few paragraphs. I have students that tell their narrative of like, why, what they studied in school and why, and then, where did they go in terms of their career after that, and then what was the point when they realized they want to go into data science, and what is their capstone projects about. So you can use that summary to your advantage. Yep. So this question is, I know you're talking about the importance of networking, but can I apply for jobs from Indeed anyway? What are the statistics of getting an interview and land a job through only a resume? So the question is like, how likely will you get an interview by just submitting a resume versus networking? So I can tell you, recruiters get tons and tons of job applications every day. They don't want to go through every single application, to be honest with you. They'd rather just have internal employees refer them to people that they like and interview those referrals. So if I had to put a statistics on it, if you don't qualify for the job, you probably have like a 10% chance of getting an interview for that job. If you refer to the company, I would say you have like maybe like 70%, 70 to even 80% chance of getting interviews. I know that when I did recruiting, anytime I got a referral, I interview that person. Even if I didn't like their resume, I still interview that person, because one, maybe my employee knows something that I don't know, and two, I didn't want to be disrespectful. If an employee came to me and referred a friend, I didn't want to be disrespectful and not give this person at least one conversation. Okay. All right, so there is a number of questions here, and I'm happy to get back to each individual by email, but I'll answer one more question, and then I'll wrap up the office hours from here. So this one says, I saw an article about someone who sent a penny to recruiters on Venmo and got a good response rate, 56%, if I remember correctly. What is your opinion about this type of unique but cold contact? I would say that that's very, very creative. But it, it can also be interpreted as like bribery, because technically you are sending money to a recruiter to get contact, and you don't that's not really a good first impression, in my opinion. So if I was a recruiter and someone sent me money just to like get in touch with me, um, I don't know if I would feel like this person would be a great fit for my organization. There's definitely other creative ways to reach out to people that doesn't involve the transfer of money. In my past experience as a recruiter, like I had to reach out to people too, because many times people who apply to my jobs did not qualify. So I had to search and hunt for people on LinkedIn. If they didn't answer my LinkedIn message, I'll email them if the email was available. There was one time where I DM someone on Twitter. I DM a designer on Twitter because, Twitter. This person was posting a lot of his like portfolio items on Twitter, and we really really liked his work. So there is other creative ways about it, but I don't think Venmo is a good way to get connected professionally. All right, so we are at 1:31 Pacific time. I am gonna end the session here. I'll keep track of all the questions that I haven't answered, and me and or Darcy on my team will follow up with answers for you. But thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a lovely weekend.